everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog. Along with Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. We are nearing the end of June. Football season is so close. It's only 72 days away. It's like we're counting it down or something.
But I see you have your Sam Houston orange on today.
It's my Met Orange.
Yes.
Met Orange for you. The athletic season has wrapped up, Jeffrey, for 2012, 2013 for NDSU after the NCAA track championships wrapped up a couple weeks ago. You know, obviously, I think all the attention, and probably rightfully so, will be on the football team for winning a second straight national championship. But as you look at it as a whole, this is the first time, at least to my recollection, since they made the move up to Division I and were eligible for the NCAA tournament, that no teams qualified for the NCAA tournament. How would you evaluate the entire school year?
I didn't know that until you brought that up, because I think of all these successes with the wrestling, having an individual All-American, and track and field with all their success. But you're right, no team did make the NCAA tournament. There are some close calls. Basketball getting almost there, men's basketball. Softball was just a little bit away.
Baseball
was right on the doorstep again, going unbeaten into the final day of the tournament. But when it's all said and done, no, you are correct once again.
Well, and most schools would kill for NDSU's success that they've had over the past couple of years. So how do you evaluate a year where you get shut out of the tournament? Is it a lost year? Is it a bad year? How do you rank that, I guess?
Well, anytime your football team wins a national title, it's going to be a good year. I mean, any AD or coach will tell you that. Once the final horn sounded in Frisco, Texas, that signified a pretty good year for the whole athletic department.
There
yes,
too.
You are. But pretty good. Yeah, there was no real, women's basketball was the one team that needs some improvement there. But
volleyball, I thought too.
Volleyball had first losing year in a while. You're correct. But as a whole, I think the department's in pretty good shape.
And obviously, for a majority of those teams, they're bringing back multiple starters and also women's golf made the NCAA regional. They didn't make the final. I just want to clarify that for the sticklers out there who I know will be watching. But but you look at it, most of these teams, obviously men's basketball, football gets all the attention. Volleyball brings back quite a bit of their team. We know what softball brings back, and baseball brings. 2013-14 could be a record year in terms of, and wrestling obviously brings back quite a bit of their guys.
Yeah, I think wrestling's a program, very good recruiting year. Apparently, by the way, all these people. I don't know. I'm still not buying this ahead of Iowa State,
You're
Oklahoma
in polls.
State.
We know your stance on preseason polls and how that goes.
Where's the data here? I don't know, but. Yeah, everybody's, and I think everybody's eyes are on football, of course, with the 18, 19 starters returning. You got some players who weren't even on the team last year, like Colton Hegel, on the team but not playing because of injury. I think Levon Perry is going to be a big question mark, and we'll get into this much later. Basketball has everybody back virtually, so yeah, it's the table's set, as they say.
You know, as you mentioned polls, I have a couple right here in my hand which you love. That NDSU has been ranked #1 already in 2 of them: the Sporting News poll and Lindy's FCS preseason top 25. They're #1. What does Coach Bull do with this when they approach fall camp? Does he just tear this right up to say, you know what, get rid of this?
He takes this and he goes, fellas, this doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And how can you really realistically judge it? You know, seriously.
That's how.
Why don't we just bring it out in January after the title
That's
game?
a great question, but that's how all polls are done. They're basing it on last year and what they have coming back. And obviously, you just mentioned it with NDSU's talent. That's why they.
And here's the question I have with these polls, and I'll be interested in the Sports Network poll because
you vote in that.
I vote in that.
Yep.
I'll be interested to see how many people do not pick NDSU #1, because there's absolutely no way on earth in the universe you cannot. With all these, I mean, there's just no possible way you could justify it.
And you can't
and
look.
People will.
Yeah, right, and that's the thing. You can't seriously. Maybe we're sitting here with a biased point of view to take Sam Houston State. Granted, they've been twice to the championship game, but they lost both
times. But you know, somebody's going to put Stony Brook #1. you know it.
Or Eastern Washington.
Eastern-based
we could do that.
Childhood upbringing.
We don't know.
Focus.
We don't know anything about past the Mississippi or anything like that. We're continuing our Nerd Stat countdown. We've reached all the way up to number 72 today, and that focuses on a guy that you just mentioned who did not play most of 2012, and that's strong safety Colton Hegel, obviously who injured his ACL in the second game of the season against Colorado State. He had 82 tackles, Jeff, in 2011. Everyone remember the Georgia Southern game when he came back from his broken thumb. But what does he mean in the defense for NDSU?
Well, he means more than just the fact he's the hardest hitter I've ever seen per bound body weight. I think he hits like a Joe Mays in relative fashion. He's just that powerful. But he brings a lot more experience, and he brings some great leadership. Even though he was out last year, we were at practice all the time, and he was almost like an assistant coach out there. And he just knows that Tampa 2 defense up and down, and that's a difficult defense in some respects from those positions, and he knows it. Almost like a coach.
This video you're looking at here is from spring ball when they got started, and he was running like there was no issues whatsoever. He was cleared to run. He told both of us that, not cleared for contact yet, but he's back on the road to being ready come fall camp. And I think he, and you mentioned Levon Perry, another guy who's dealing with an ACL injury. We talked to both of them in Frisco before the championship game. You could just see it that they were dying. They couldn't be out there, but obviously they were going to wanted to support their teammates. How big of a question mark coming back from an ACL? Where do you think we'll see him at full speed?
Well, I think he could play tomorrow. There's no doubt in my mind. I think he was pretty close in spring ball. If it was an absolute must, he may have. I mean, if he was cleared a little bit, probably could have got out there. With Hegel, no issue whatsoever, unless there's some reoccurrence we don't know about. Levon Perry, I'll be interested to see when fall camp starts where he's at in his rehab. He was said to be in his timeline when we did this story in spring football that it could be close up to the deadline of beginning of fall camp.
Now remember, Perry injured his knee in middle November, and we're talking, I guess now with ACL tears, Adrian Peterson has broke the mold on that considering how bad, but he's a freak of nature. But they normally say, between 8 to 10 months before you get fully recovered, up to a year before you're ready to go?
Yeah, I think there's generally 6, 7, 8 months up to a year. I think 8, 9 months is a pretty good time frame.
And that's with Colton Hegel. He injured his in September.
And he's not a problem.
You know, that would be right on August by the time he's ready to go for the start of fall camp. We've been doing this for the last few video blogs. We take our Twitter questions at FGO Sportswriter and at Dom Izzo, WDAY. Zach Bowe tweets at us, guys, any updates on the Shack? That's obviously the renovations to the VSA. I know that you wrote about that just last week.
Well, they're in the final stages of the fundraising efforts, and we've written that they've been in the final stages of fundraising efforts for a while. I'm just waiting for the announcement that says, hey, shovel in the ground. That's the next story.
And obviously right about now, I believe Gene Taylor has told both of us that they wanted to have the shovel in the ground sometime in the summer of 2013 to stay on their quote-unquote perceived timeline. Any hesitation, any worries that might be pushed back?
Well, of course. I mean, if there's no announcement, and it is almost the middle of summer toward the end of June here, in talks, with the architecture firm too, I just think they'll start and go and figure it out how they have to.
It's got to get done.
Well, it will get done. It's just whether it's before we retire.
Well, you retired, not me.
Yeah, you're a little young.
Here's Matt also tweeting at us. Fall camp isn't that far off, and NDSU doesn't have a full schedule. What's the update on game number 11?
That's your question, brother.
That you wrote about as well. NDSU, Gene Taylor told us last week, he talked to Georgia Southern about playing a game. Now, obviously, GSU is not eligible for the FCS playoffs. They could go up and play a 12th game if they needed it. They didn't have a date agreed upon. They thought about playing that first round or the first week of the FCS playoffs, and that's taking for granted that NDSU would have a bye week then. So nothing really worked out there. Obviously, the dates are still out there. September 7th and September the 14th are the dates that NDSU is trying to get filled. We've heard, the latest was September 14th was what they preferred to play on, with possibly an FCS date for November the 2nd. I think I'm with you right now. I'm just waiting for the release. Either they're going to play 10 games or they're going to play 11 or 12, because my list that I had in the notebook back in February,
that's gone.
It's all filled up right now.
There is no deadline, by the way. I mean, you could schedule a game in August if you had to.
Theoretically. I mean, that's almost unheard of, though, in major Division I college football. I mean, we're still 72 days out. I mean, that does sound like a long time, even though here we are at the end of June, but it still theoretically could get done. Joel also comes in here with a tweet. Guys, any update on a final game for Bison football? Maybe we can fit MSU back in. I'm assuming that, I don't know if they're meeting Morehead State
MSUM,
or Montana State.
I just don't think that's going to happen.
And that's the new rule in the Northern Sun. They can't, in Division II, at least in the Northern Sun Conference, and Big E will tell us that as well, that they have a rule now which makes absolutely no sense. Right. You can only play conference games. So there's no non-conference in the Northern Sun.
So much for the Power Bowl, right?
Right, exactly. So that means the Dragons and the Cobbers can't play. Not even a game like with Minnesota Duluth, who's been really good the last couple of years. So, I'm still holding out for like a Pittsburgh State or a Valdosta State who won the D2 championship last year. That would be actually, if they're going to play a D2, that would be appealing.
Bring the D2 champ. That would at least be something you could think about.
Right. Also, a question here from Joel. Will Coach Bowl reinstate Travis back? Will he be suspended? Obviously, this is reflective of the incident last week involving NDSU starting linebacker who the charges of felony assault were dropped. He still does have a resisting arrest charge pending. What do you think here?
Well, this will be the 11th year I'll cover Coach Bull, and he has yet to consult me on any disciplinary matters. And so I don't know. Those things, you just got to wait for the staff or the administration to make a decision. There's nothing we can report on that.
At the moment, right, that we're kind of in a holding pattern here. Nothing has changed on his status on the team. He is still indefinitely suspended, and that goes back to last Monday when the initial charges were brought about. Nothing has changed since then, and if anything does,
we'll let you know.
Of course, update on that. Got a really exciting project we'll let you know about here coming in the next 2 months. That's going to come out here as obviously NDSU nears its 10-year anniversary of being a Division I program. We are going to try to select the top 10 moments with your help at home over the last 10 years. I've been here for 6. Obviously, you covered all of it. It should be pretty exciting and trying to whittle this down to 10.
I wrote my 10 today.
You
so
did?
I emailed them, and I'm sure they'll be the 10 that will be.
Of course, I can't argue anything with that. That'll wrap up the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog. For Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. Thanks, everybody, for watching.